An absence of meaning opens a gap in time. Ladies, gentlemen, and variations thereupon, this is Modern Escapism. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Oodles, 29 years in the making. Joining me today, 37 years in the making, we have Stig.
Twat. Hello.
25 years in the making, we have Candy.
21 actually, but that's fine.
Sorry. 35 years in the making, we have Gadget.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah.
And,
for fuck's sake.
And now 62 years in the making, we have Biggie.
Motherfucker. 63, actually.
Listen to the end of the show for that reference. Before we get into the show, please consider becoming one of our kind and sexy patrons. Details are in the show notes, and check out our website, modernescapism.co.uk, for exquisite content and links to all our gubbins. So as always, and has absolutely never changed, it's time for Biggie's breaking news, as of last week.
Yes, have I got news for you?
Have you?
So, yeah, I have. Here it comes. Be outdated though, so do what we want with it. So, Square Enix is selling off its Western studios, Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and Square Enix Montreal, as well as those franchises the studios developed, including Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, to the Embracer Group. The companies announced on Monday. The deal's worth $300 million for all of that lot.
That doesn't seem a lot.
I was going to say that it doesn't. When you consider Bethesda was what, $7 billion, and then Blizzard something, I can't even remember what it was. It was ridiculous.
Billion.
Yeah.
This includes Tomb Raider of all things.
But the weird thing is, it includes like 1,000 staff members as well, or 1,500 staff members across all these studios. So it's like 300 million seems like a fucking bargain.
Yeah.
We could have chipped together and got it ourselves.
Oh yeah, it's like a bug off deal at the shops, you know.
Yeah. Do you reckon it was? I don't know how business works clearly, but do you reckon it was 300 million because obviously there is all that stuff and you have to think about them as well?
I think
the Embracer Group has to cover that.
Yeah, I think I can't remember whether I heard it on a podcast or I was reading about it. It's basically that's 300 million, like kind of cash and share payment up front.
Yeah, that's profit. But that's all good stuff.
But I think they're committed to not making major redundancies for the next 3 years. So it's basically
I'm happy with that.
The value of the deal is actually a lot more, but in actual cash terms, it's like 300 million.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's right. Because
still a fucking steal.
Why didn't Sony buy it? Or, you know what I mean? Imagine
Sony
Tomb Raider back to Sony.
Sony could still buy Square Enix, though. I think they were talking about that.
They'd want it for Final Fantasy and stuff, though, wouldn't they? The big guns.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, to be honest. Because usually
they go to jail for their deal with Bungie.
So it's worth remembering as well. Embracer Group used to be THQ Nordic.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm just looking up the list of the games they've got because it seems to be quite extensive.
Yes, please.
Would they?
I think that's called Fire Games now.
They've got those licenses then.
Yeah.
Something like Tomb Raider. Do you think that they just completely reboot that again then, or carry on the same
they're gonna
style?
have to now.
Are they allowed to carry it on in the same style, or?
Well, yeah, because they're the rights holders, and if it's the same developer, they can.
It's still the same guys. I think people will just enjoy whatever they bring out. Really, I think Tomb Raider's one of them.
To make the main character a guy.
No. It's had multiple reboots though, hasn't it? So it's fine where people expect it.
Yeah.
So the Embracer also own. So under the Embracer umbrella, you have multiple parent groups and companies underneath them. But like parent groups they've got are people like Asmodee, Coffee Stain, who own Ghost Ship Games. Dark Horse Media, so they own Dark Horse Comics and Dark Horse Entertainment.
Shit. Oh, that's cool.
Gearbox, so they own everything under Gearbox. So they're the slimy Randy Pitchford's paymasters. Coke Media, so under Coke Media you've also got Deep Silver, Flying Wild Hog Games, and Vertigo Games.
Oh wow!
Saber Interactive.
Thanks for the Game 01 from them in the week.
Yeah. And THQ Nordic sit under them, so they've obviously got a load of other developers and brands.
When it comes to Western developers, they're a behemoth now, aren't they?
It's kind of like they're the Swedish version of Tencent. Like they just seem to own everything. I don't know if they're necessarily as evil as Tencent, though.
Well, we get to find out, aren't we? Excellent. So
looking at the people they own, they don't appear to have any like big live service games.
Yeah. What other news we got, Biggie? Let's go.
So, Return to Monkey Island has been announced that it's due sometime this year. Ron Gilbert was said to be a bit hurt by the feedback he's had from fans about the art style. He said it's ironic that the people who don't make... he says it's ironic that the people who don't want me to make the game I want to make are some of the hardcore Monkey Island fans. And that is what makes me sad about all of the comments.
Do they want it to like Uncharted or fucking
Last
of Us?
They wanted to have the same art style as the original games.
The cartoons, yeah.
The thing is, it's still really cartoony, but it's a bit more of a kind of 2022 cartoon.
It's
got a slightly Nickelodeon style to it.
You don't play Monkey Island for the graphics. You play it for the
writing,
awesome writing, and
the graphics just help the story.
I love
animations and stuff, isn't it?
The remastered of 1 and 2.
Yeah,
when you played in the remastered version, that looked great. That's what I was expecting it to look like.
I'm up for it. Still.
I haven't seen a picture of what it's going to look like. To be fair,
it's I mean, it doesn't look bad. It's got a very kind of chunky art style as opposed to like the kind of Disney-fied art style. What's it? Return to Monkey Island. 3D
one, was it 4 or something?
Oh, we don't talk about that one.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
But I played that one with the Escape from Monkey Island. That's one I played.
Yeah.
You know, with the kind of 3D look.
Yeah.
And you got the tails of the Monkey Island. Yeah, I thought they were okay. They obviously dropped in quality, but I still enjoyed them.
Bring it back. I'm up for it, mate. I'm ready for it.
So just for Stig's benefit, I'll share the silently share the original trailer so you can just see the art style.
Okay, while they're at it, they can do.
I like that art style.
Discworld as well.
Oh, I'd love them to remake Discworld or do Into the Discworld game.
Oh yes, please.
It looks like the art style from like the Wonder Boy remake and Shantae. I like it.
Devolver again.
It's chunky. It's charming. I quite like it.
It's Nickelodeon, isn't it?
That's exactly what I said. Yeah,
it's nice.
Very nice.
I don't really see the problem with this.
No, I think it's just because it's a little bit. It's stylized in a slightly different way to the original games. I think the hardcore fans are a little bit annoyed by it.
The main thing is Ron's involved.
Never happy.
Exactly.
Are they even
it's
fans?
the game he's wanted to make.
Excellent. Next.
It's a very, very quick shout-outs. There was a musical based on BioShock from California's John Burroughs High School Powerhouse Choir.
I saw
and they won the Heart Encore 2022 show choir competition. I mean, of all things that you'd
would you kindly do this?
Did you watch the YouTube clip of it, anyone? The actual musical? It was good. It was really good.
It's not based exactly on the plot or anything, but yeah, they've been inspired by what happened in Rapture and stuff. And, cool.
I'd love there to be an actual musical.
Yeah, with Andrew Garfield.
Be incredible.
Well, there is a Netflix film in the works.
There's been a BioShock film in the works for decades.
Yeah, I think since the original came out.
Yeah, but Netflix are pushing forward with it, I think.
Because Netflix have no money left.
Recently too.
Yeah, bye Netflix.
And I want to give a massive shout out to the game trailer Outpost. I'm so into seeing how this game turns out. Chinese first-person shooter. You're the last line of defense of an invasion, and it just looks absolutely mental. If they pull off what that trailer shows, I'm well up for that. I'll drop that trailer in the Discord when the pod comes out. I'm sure you can see it anyway. Moving on from that, the new spin-off Game of Thrones series, House of Dragon, has a trailer. And I like the look of this.
I hadn't seen it.
Yeah, I think it looks really good.
It's got all the feels of Game of Thrones. If you like that, it looks like the
doesn't have the people
doing the same thing.
I say it doesn't have D&D behind them.
No.
Yeah, so they might not get bored with it this time.
They might do a decent job of it.
Yeah,
it's just more Game of Thrones, but it's obviously set a few hundred years before the TV show that about the Game of Thrones TV show. It's about the Targaryens and all kind of. It looks like they've
It's
got
all those legends, isn't it, that talked about?
Yeah, got the Baratheons there,
Yeah.
the Starks, and all the other people kind of pledging the loyalty to him. And
I hope it stays a political intrigue show.
Yeah, I do.
'Cause I do like the talking bits in Game of
It
Thrones.
does look like it is going to be
It's
that
great.
because it looks as though I'm not going to attempt the names of the Targaryens, but it looks as though the current king is trying to set it up so his daughter is the one that goes on the throne, and
Yeah.
that's a big no-no. So it's going to be,
Of course.
yeah, it looks as though it's going to be a bit of a political backstabbing kind of clans turning
what I
on
want.
clans. But the Iron Throne,
I
if
think
you
I
watch the
spotted.
trailer, looks great. Looks like what the Iron Throne should look like.
Should look like, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like Paddy Considine's in it. Is that right? Matt Smith is quite a
There's quite a few
mixture.
people
Matt
in
Smith
it.
looks
I
a
know
bit
that,
like
yeah.
Jimmy Somerville, to be honest. But
There's a lot of blonde hairs in it because they're all Targaryens.
Jimmy Savile, I mean,
aren't
not
they?
Jimmy Somerville.
Not a wig.
Complete
well,
different.
I know,
game
I
going
know
on.
what you meant.
So hang on. You got it wrong, corrected it to be wronger, and then went back to your original thought. That's impressive work, even by your standard, Biggie.
Jimmy Savile, not Jimmy Somerville.
Say his name one more time and it's going to
Anyway.
haunt us.
Yeah. It looks good. I'm actually excited to see it because I did love Game of Thrones, the first
Same,
few
mate.
series,
Yeah.
and if it's got people who actually care about it,
Yeah.
now we'll hopefully,
Yeah, production
Might
looks
take-
good though, doesn't it?
yeah, it might take.
People were
the,
saying on Twitter saying it won't be fun because the ramifications can't be too big. I'm like, it's set hundreds of years before.
Yeah.
Of course, it can be that big. It's a fall
it's
of
all-
a kingdom. It's massive.
Well, yeah, it's also law that's only kind of really lightly touched upon in the
Yeah.
original TV
The
show. Like,
ramifications could be
'cause-
bigger than the actual show we've seen.
because the main law that's referenced a lot in Game of Thrones is the Mad King Targaryen, which was like
Yeah.
what 30 years before this.
Yeah, the failed
You know,
king
exactly.
as well. Not a good.
Yeah,
Not a good.
because
just
when,
leader.
when they said they were doing a prequel series, it was going to be about the Targaryens. I thought, oh, they're going to talk about the Mad King getting deposed. It's like, no, it's
Oh,
not.
no.
It's much earlier than
much
that,
earlier than that.
which I'm happy
Yeah.
about.
And
Same.
as a spoiler, you can put a clacks in front of this if you want, but there apparently may be at least one death in the show.
Oh
Surely not.
wow! No way. Next.
In relation to last week's pod, the Weird Al Yankovic biopic had its trailer released with our Harry Potter star Daniel Radcliffe.
It's nice to
playing the
see
man
Hollywood
himself.
listening to us.
Yeah, the trailer looks as mad as a bag of spatulas, to be honest.
Which is exactly what I want from it.
Yep, exactly. I really like
can't
Daniel
have a
Radcliffe
weird-
as well.
Oh yeah, well, I like that Daniel Radcliffe's being weird with it.
He's the new nutter, isn't he? He's a nutter.
He's,
He don't
yeah, he's
care.
weird with everything. I love it.
I still giggle every time I go into Amazon Prime and I see like the thumbnail for Guns Akimbo there, and he's just stood there with two guns taped to his hand, looking like he's mental. It's great.
He did the Swiss Army Man as well, didn't he? Where he was
Yeah, the
basically
farting
like,
boy.
yeah,
Just a corpse.
farting cops or something.
So weird.
Bring it on. Keep him do it. If you don't want to be Potter anymore, this is the way to do it.
Everyone keeps wanting him to play Wolverine.
He is not built for Wolverine.
Have you seen him though? He's stacked.
Yeah, in that Weird Al trailer, he's looking
Yeah.
pretty ripped. But
No, but
all you got to do
Wolverine's wider than he is tall.
did you see what they
Yes,
did?
but
to,
Wolverine's not drawn like a human person.
He's not
But he's
human.
meant to be.
did you see what they did with the Eternals? What they did with them lot?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, you've
don't-
seen Kamal Nanjiani
Exactly.
Let's not.
went
let's not.
from skinny
If you-
nerd to
if
like
you get him
hench
on
as
that
fuck.
Marvel training schedule.
Yeah, I suppose. Suppose. Next, any more?
Everyone would be really happy to know that Mrs. Brown Boys may be back as a... No, I'm not going down that route.
Next.
The
next.
BBC have announced sex
Fucking idiot.
education star Shute Gatwa will be the new Doctor Who.
I'm hyped
I'm
for
into
this.
it.
The Rwandan Scottish actor says he's deeply honoured to be cast as the Time Lord after finding fame during the Netflix comedy Sex Education, which I've not seen.
He's
No idea if
fantastic
he's
in it. He's
any good.
fantastic in it. He truly is.
I've very much enjoyed looking down Twitter today to see the amount of gammon kicking
Yeah.
off. Who probably didn't watch Doctor Who in the first place? But it's
I haven't watched it
he's-
since David Tennant.
yeah, well,
I
he's
never watched it. I don't really care if it's fine.
Yeah.
Cast whoever.
don't get salty because they didn't ask you, mate. Don't get
He
salty.
did ask me, but I committed myself to modern escapism.
Yeah, that's where the big money is.
he's great. He's a great actor. He's very charming. He's very funny, and I just like the idea of a very flamboyant, very gay black Doctor Who. That works for me.
It works for me too. Absolutely. Is that the news then, Biggie?
That's the news, and over to Oodles for the weather.
Yeah, it's raining sideways. I don't know.
Do you want some soup? What kind?
Chunky! Okay.
My God, that's a 1999 reference.
I love that. We do that all the time. I mean, it says something, you go, Chunky!
Let's get on with the Nexus. Biggie, I believe you've done F all, so you've got one little thing to chat about.
Yeah, I saw The Batman, and it's very good. Really enjoyed it. Really cool. It's long, but enjoyed it anyway. Yeah, it looks great. Production is awesome. Soundtrack, everything that you guys have said. Go check it out. It's amazing.
Good soup. Gadget?
So I'm going to talk about. I brought this up a couple of weeks ago because I just started, but I finished this week. The Girl Who Could Move Shit with Her Mind by Jackson Ford, which is a book I picked up in Waterstones purely on the title. Literally judged this book by its cover and its title, because anyone who can put a book out with a title like that must be doing something great. And you know what? He didn't.
Oh, no.
This was okay. So I'll kind of preface that around that. So the book is about a kind of 20-something woman called Tegan, who, as the book title says, she can move shit with her mind. She's got psychokinesis. She works for a kind of very shady kind of government agency. She had a very traumatic past, being experimented on by the US government, as anyone with superpowers would. You know, the US government would find you, they would test on you. It's their thing. But she's working with these doing kind of secretly spy things, and she basically means, you know, she can walk into places, open locks without leaving fingerprints, hack, you know, put things in places where they shouldn't be. And they do a job which goes badly, they make an escape, and then the next day the target who they were surveilling at this previous job dies in a way that only someone with psychokinesis could do. And obviously the old suspicion goes on to Tegan, and Tegan has fully believed her entire life she's the only one with this power. And there we go. That's how the story starts and goes. And the thing is, the book makes a very, very good first impression. It's very funny. It's very witty. Tegan as a character is quite likable. It's one of those books that's written from the first person perspective, so you basically get most of her internal monologue, and some of it is incredibly funny or endearing, or, you know, you feel bad for about some things. But then as the book goes on, and I found this a lot with people who do kind of pulpy sci-fi fantasy novels, especially when it's kind of male writers with female characters. It gets a little bit torture porny in a bad way, because there is action happening around her and things happening, like, you know, people are trying to capture her because of her powers and stuff like that. There is a lot of Tegan being effectively assaulted in various different ways. So, like, she gets hit by a taser, she gets hit by a car, she gets soldiers chasing after her, kind of gripping her and holding her down. And a lot of this stuff is written in fantastic detail, but in a really uncomfortable way. And I don't think it sticks the landing it wants to. There's a second perspective character in it that you basically, most of the chapters are based around Tegan, but there are some chapters based around another character. And when it's his bit of the story, it goes into third and second person writing, which is really jarring to switch from first to third person like that. It just doesn't work for me. It also suffers that thing that I think a lot of action comedy books and films suffer with when you kind of get to the last act. The writer is not able to transfer from comedy to tension properly. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of quite horrific stuff happen in a really kind of kludgy way. And it was really disappointing because it made such a good impression, and the title is fantastic, but it doesn't stick it. And I think the problem is, I think if Jackson Ford had written this as the guy who could move shit with his mind, I think it would come off better, because I don't think he's very good at writing women. Yeah. And especially with the amount of abuse that Tegan goes throughout the story, I think it would have been a less uncomfortable read if it was happening to a man rather than a woman. Simply because it's a man writing it. Yeah. It's I don't want to say it's like voyeuristic or anything like that, but it just seems excessive what she goes through. And he's having to push her through this story, and like she's constantly explaining, like, you know, a psychokinesis takes from her energy. It takes from her physical energy to use the psychokinesis. And she's having to use it in bigger and bigger ways to get out of these experiences. So it's constantly talking about how much in pain she is, how tired she is, how exhausted she is. And then bang, something else comes in, starts hitting her, and she's like being knocked to the ground by a flying mailbox or something like that. And then it goes on about how much in pain she is. And it's just like, how much of this book is this poor girl in pain for a really poor payoff at the end? And it's just like, nah, I wouldn't recommend this book to people. And the thing
you're doing it so we don't have to.
Yeah, the guy's written a series on these ones because I think the second book's called Random Shit Flying Everywhere or something like that.
It's a shame because that title's off.
The title's banging. Absolutely 10 out of 10 title, but it's a proper 5 out of 10 book, which I'm really sad about. So, but yeah,
it's the word shit as well by the looks of
it. So yeah, the Girl Who Can Move Shit with a Mind by Jackson Ford. Don't read it.
Solid 5 out of 10.
Yep. Save your time and money for something else.
5 out of 10 is not shit. 5 out of 10 is one of those you see it for 99p somewhere.
Yeah. Like if you can get it for free on Kindle Unlimited or something like that, give it a blast. But it's definitely not worth you putting some hard cash down for.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Stick.
Yeah, I was going to talk about this last week. Had I not had to drop out last minute. So I thought I'd bring it to this week. I watched the season 2 of Russian Doll, which is a Netflix comedy drama show. It stars Natasha Lyonne. The first series was really, really good. It's about a girl who gets kind of... it's a Groundhog Day style thing. She gets trapped in a time loop and she keeps dying over and over again, no matter how many times she tries to... If she tries to avoid the way she died before, she just dies in another way, and she's got to try and figure out how to get out of this time loop. It's really good, like done really, really well. And so they brought it back for a second series, which after the conclusion of season 1, I didn't see them doing it as getting a second series out of it. But this time they've thrown a time travel element into it. So the show is set 4 years after the events of season 1, and one night Nadia, Natasha's character, gets on a train and ends up back in the 80s.
Nice.
But not just in the 80s, in the body of her mother.
That's when all the best people were born.
Ooh, so it's gone Freaky Friday.
Her pregnant mother.
Whoa.
I guess she's
Quantum Leap.
Well, yeah, okay, I gather that one, yeah.
Yes. So it's she is basically she's sent back in time, and she starts to discover things about she has not had a relationship with her mother, and a relationship with her grandma wasn't great, and she's trying to discover what happened to their family heritage, like their fortune, basically, that her mother kind of stole and dwindled and everything. So she thinks that she's been sent back in time this time to try and correct that and change things. And it's just a really good way of carrying on with this character. She's really brash and funny, and she's a proper woman out of time, obviously, but when she's sent back into the 80s, and the way she talks and moves is very 2022.
Yeah, because there's cadence with language and stuff like that you've got to think about. That's clever.
Exactly. And she also doesn't try and pretend the fact that she's in a different body, which is really funny. So she doesn't pretend that she's a mother. She talks to it like, oh yeah, like she's herself, and she says, oh, my mother, and everyone around is a bit like, the fuck are you talking about? But it just takes weirder and weirder turns. There is further time travel takes her back to Poland in the war times and stuff. All this interconnected things to do with her and her family, and her trying to solve out what happened with this fortune. But yeah, it's really good. If you enjoyed season 1, I think season 1 is a lot better. I would recommend watching season 1 if you enjoyed that, carrying on with season 2. But it's just a really good human story at the heart of it all, behind the comedy and the absurdness of it. It's at the core of it. It's really kind of deep human story. Is that the best way I could describe it? But yeah, they're really good. Really
excellent. What we're going to do now, because me, Stig, and Candy went and watched the event of the month. Really, I suppose you could call it that. We're gonna triple tag team this. don't worry.
Through the medium of dance?
Through the medium of dance. Interpretive dance. You've got to watch it on YouTube for that now. Oh, God, I hurt. Yeah, we spoiler free. We're going to be spoiler free. We're going to talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
So very quickly, Stiggy, have you not seen this? I haven't.
Of course I have.
I said he's getting involved in it. Come on, adjust your
Of course I
ear.
have. Of course I have.
Hey?
I haven't seen it.
I thought for a minute
But he's
Stiggy
planning
had.
on seeing it, and most people listening to this won't have seen it, so we're gonna be
Oh, it's
spoiler
always
if
spoiler free, yeah. Definitely.
what I want to judge from you, Candy, first is what you thought. Did you like it?
I was hoping you weren't going to come to me first because I think from reading Stig's opinion in our Discord that we're going to disagree because
That's what I love.
absolutely loved it. It's gone straight into my top 3 Marvel films.
Top 3
Yeah.
Wow.
honeymoon
It's a good
period.
one,
Oh,
4 in the
what?
top 10. To be
No,
fair.
I don't think it is because I thought to myself, I didn't hear that. I'm not going to pay any attention to it. When I got home, I was like, is it because I just watched it?
Classic Candy is my favorite candy.
I loved how bonkers it is. I loved the Sam Raimi-ness of it.
It is fully a Sam Raimi film. If you
Here
don't
you
like
go.
horror,
I would
you
say-
won't like this.
Yeah, actually, I will say that one of the first things I did when I came out of it was texted my friend who's taking her youngsters to see it and said,
Don't do it.
there are some scary moments in it. So for younger kids, it's probably not suitable.
I'm not letting my kids watch it.
It's by far the darkest MCU film so far, I think. But yeah, I just love
There's actual gore in it.
Yeah, all apart from, I don't think they show any actual blood, do they? But yeah, there's scary, there's jump scares and there's violent bits.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not suitable for. I'd certainly think twice for under 12s. But anyway, I just love the absurdness of it in pure Raimi style. I loved the soundtrack. I loved some of the fight scenes, which I won't talk about because it's a really really fun moment between Doctor Strange and an enemy, should we say? And it's
Enemy.
an enemy. And the creativity of it and the soundtrack that goes with it,
It's brilliant.
It blew my hair
bit was
back.
Great.
That'd be it's
Absolutely
probably my
loved it.
favorite bit in the film.
All that stuff isn't the issue I have with it.
Yeah, well,
we'll get to you soon.
what I'll say is I'm going into it complete. I haven't read any of the Doctor Strange comics, and I read up very little about it beforehand. So I'm not going with any kind of preconceived notions about what it's supposed to be, where the story's going to go. To me, it was just the next film in the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, not knowing, what might come of these characters.
Cool. Well, I don't know if Stig liked it less than me. I'm kind of in the middle of it because I gave it a non-context 3 out of 5. The story the main thing that I took from my trip to the cinema was I was naughty at the cinema because I was at the front of the cinema because it's the only ticket I could get, and I saw a guy drop a massive blob of ketchup on the floor, and I didn't tell anyone, and I watched 3 people slip on it throughout the event.
So that
And
was a highlight.
I just sat there giggling to myself, and I thought, "Karma's gonna get me."
That's Oodle's Doctor Strange review. People slipped in ketchup.
Yeah, no, I genuinely, it is more of a Sam Raimi film than it is an MCU film. I get what they're trying to do because they gave the MCU to Taika Waititi a few years back, and it rapturous applause. My favorite one, and they seem to have done it. They did it with Eternals as well. They gave it to what's her name again? Really good.
Chloe Zhao.
Yeah, really good director. And she tried to turn it into her own spin, and people were saying it feels like a DC film, and it did. And then with this, it's definitely Sam Raimi doing that Sam Raimi. If you liked Spider-Man 2, if you like Evil Dead, I think you will like this.
Oh,
I would
Genuinely?
say certainly more Evil Dead than Spider-Man 2.
Absolutely. There's a
I'm
lot of
very
Spider-Man 2
intrigued
nods
now.
in it, though. A lot of Spider-Man 2 nods. But yeah, if you like Evil Dead, you will. I think you'll give it an extra point. In the grand scheme of things, I think the world is not ready for the themes it's projecting across to everyone. I think it's too much too soon. It's a very important film in the grand scheme of things as well. judging from how it ended and stuff. But yeah, solid 3 out of 5 for me. Stig?
Well, I love Evil Dead.
Yeah, I know you do.
Love Spider-Man 2. I like Drag Me to Hell. I'm a big Sam Raimi fan. I've never read any of the Doctor Strange comics, so again, I kind of have no preconception of how this story should go or anything like that. And I thought it was fine. The visuals in it are brilliant. Wanda is fantastic. Elizabeth Olsen is she's just front and center and clearly the best thing in it. She's just she's the driving force of this film by far.
Doctor Strange
film.
He's a substitute in it, isn't he?
He's just the least interesting character in it for me.
He doesn't seem like the main character. That's the funny thing.
Oh, he definitely isn't. He definitely isn't.
I think that my biggest problem really is the story and the dialogue is really lacking narratively.
Dialogue's terrible.
For me, it's weak. I prefer the Doctor Strange 1 film to this. I also feel like his relationship with Christine is just weak as fuck across both of these films, and it just it does not convey why he has that love for her. The only
I don't think Benedict Cumberbatch has ever been good with love and romance in anything he's ever done. Remember when he somehow fell in love with the bride in Sherlock? Where did that come from? Do you know what I mean?
That's just shit writing.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like if you watch the What If episode with Doctor Strange, that does a better job than the both films have done.
It's way better.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff about it. I don't necessarily agree that people aren't ready for multiverse, and that I think if it's just told well and done well, it's fine. But I think they could have done more with it.
Yeah, I think they could have done less with it. That's where we differ. I think there's a lot going off.
No, I just don't think there's enough of it. I feel that I just don't want to put people like Gadgets go and see it. I don't want him to be put off by it. I'm
still going to go and see it.
I just don't think that there's much difference. They all go from this world to that world to that world.
Yeah.
They all feel exactly the same.
Is it the multiverse of madness or the multiverse of mundane? You decide, Gadget, when you go.
Wait
people.
till Disney.
Yeah,
People know that there is a cameo in there. It's in the trailer.
Yeah.
That was ruined by the trailer because you just sat there waiting. Oh, this is where he turns up. Had they not put that in the trailer, that would have been a fucking incredible moment. So
see, I somehow missed that trailer. So for
you
me,
lucky thing.
It was exciting.
Yeah, it was. But knowing that, there's some other
Marvel's got
a
a terrible run of doing this kind of thing with their trailers, though. Like putting really impactful moments or impactful surprises into the trailers.
Yeah.
It's not only that, but also Patrick Stewart posted on Twitter that
whoa! Spoiler alert!
It's in the trailer. In my opinion, if it's in the trailer, it's fair game.
I'm only joking.
But he posted on Twitter, thanks for being involved in the movie.
He did before the film released. He did.
Yeah, I was just disappointed.
I'm disappointed with his face so far, mate.
The TV is killing it with this phase for me. The films,
absolutely.
We've had one banger for me. That's it.
That's not good, is it? It's not good enough.
For me,
this is the film that's made me excited for the next phase because I wasn't into it. I'm almost on kind of Marvel burnout. And then I saw this film, like, now I want to know what happens.
Isn't this, and again, obviously I haven't seen the film, so I'm not commenting on the quality of the film itself, but because, like, this phase has been a bit up and down with the films itself, is this not kind of like because they got to the end of the Infinity Saga and that was built up from Iron Man onwards? Some of the phase 1 films were a little bit shaky, and is it not because they're setting up for the next 3 phases or whatever? This one's a bit shaky.
Like the best writers are doing the TV stuff. That's what it feels like to me. Because a lot of these films, like even stuff as Eternals, would have been better if it were better written, if they were a bit more. I don't know.
Eternals needs to be a TV series, not a film.
Yes, they came out of nowhere, and it's not fair to do that to an audience, in my opinion. You can't just expect people to know who the Eternals are. I've learned that. Coming into this as someone that does know what everything is. Like, I was sat in the cinema watching this, and a certain thing happened, and I was like, "Ho ho!" and no one else did. Do you know what I mean? And I felt
this is also the problem where they're getting outside of the, because the Infinity Saga is pretty well known by
Yes, they're
non-comic
the main
people.
main people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
but like this kind of multiverse stuff, and they're bringing in the deep cuts.
Oh, there's some deep shit in there. Some
I
deep.
love
Like-
that.
like-
I just don't think they did a good
Oh
job.
no, I know, but like there's a like for instance, like there's a film coming for is it Kang the Conqueror? Like who the fuck knows who he is? Who doesn't read the comics religiously? You know?
You'll know who he is if you watch the shows.
Well, no, but you know what I mean. Like he is an out.
Yeah.
He's not one of the main Avengers characters.
What
so
you've
no one
got
knows
to
who he is.
remember, and me and Stig have talked ad nauseum on this. Nobody knew who Thanos was,
Well, true, yeah.
and he became everyone's favorite villain since Darth Vader. Do you get what I mean? This could happen. They just need that build up again. But the momentum on this phase is just off kilter because all the good stuff is on the show. It's in the shows.
For me,
One of the
it is.
biggest problems with these kind of movies as well is that when you have a villain, if you take something like Deadpool, the villains in that are shit.
It's not
You know,
Marvel.
Sometimes
sometimes-
the star of it.
Yeah,
But it's
all
just-
Ryan Reynolds.
But it's just trying to build up a movie. And I think sometimes when you're doing superhero movies, there's not enough time to get that plot done properly. They're rushing everything.
Trust me, with Doctor Strange, it's not the
Yeah.
villain that's the issue in that film.
No, but I'm just talking in general. I just think there are issues that you have with superhero movies when they hit or miss. I think it's a lot to do with what they're trying to convey in that particular story in that short period of time that they've got. That's why the TV shows work better because they're longer. They can deliver that.
Me and Stig say that all the time on
I love
on our
these-
show.
I love the like 6-parters they're doing. They're not dragging it out to like 12 or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
That 6 seems to be the
But it's
magic number.
long enough to get
Yeah.
that story across, isn't it?
Especially when they're like an hour long as well. That's just the extra kind of couple of hours you need, I think.
Yeah, because people saying like I've been seeing people going on about Daredevil's the best thing Marvel show that they've done, which could be a fair point because Daredevil is a really good fucking show.
It's a really good show.
But it's 10 episodes, and at least 3 of the episodes
Could have been.
You just like this is just filler, absolute filler
Yeah.
shit, and that's
Totally
in
agree
every
with that.
series. So
Yeah.
the 6-part series is good, but I just back to Doctor Strange. I think for me, Loki and Spider-Man: No Way Home just did the multiverse kind of
They did it
variant
right.
stuff a lot better.
They did.
I don't know what it was. I feel a bit broken that I'm
So
kinda
with
not enjoying this phase as much.
I'm with you, mate. Don't worry.
Without spoiling it, in Multiverse Master, are they doing the multiverse stuff differently to how they did it in Loki?
Yes.
'Cause I really
Oh,
like the
yeah,
approach you're doing it in
massively.
Loki.
It's way different. It's as if it didn't mean anything.
Right. Oh.
Yes, exactly.
Because
As
they've
if-
set up that mechanic in the TVA and in Loki.
Yeah, well, forget that.
Yeah. I will say it is
Disappointing.
worth watching a couple. There's probably a couple of ones that you need to watch before. Obviously, Doctor Strange 1.
Yeah,
I would
WandaVision.
watch. WandaVision and probably What If as well.
What If? Yeah, definitely.
I haven't seen
the
What
Doctor
If.
Strange episode of What
No.
If.
Just the Doctor
Yeah.
Strange episodes, none of the other. You don't have
Yeah.
to. Well, you should watch the others anyway because they're really good. But
Can I just say one thing that I really did enjoy about this film, actually, and it's not really a spoiler because it kind of happens right at the beginning, is when Doctor Strange is questioned about whether his one way
yes,
the right
was
way.
the right thing to do. Yeah.
It's like people questioning, basically saying this happened to me. And this
Did you have
happened
to?
like,
Did we have to
this-
lose 5 years of his
Yeah.
lives?
Did we? Was that the only way? Like,
Yeah, I did like that.
it seems to be quite. Everyone seems to know what happened, though, don't they? Like that, someone's jotted all this down about what happened in the battle and what happened with this, and
Yeah.
some historian seems to have managed to capture
It's
everything
all
that
on the
happened around
MCU
Avengers.
Twitter, isn't it? It's all on
Yeah.
their Twitter. That's
But
what
I
it
did
is.
like that. I did like someone bringing up what they did,
Yeah.
what ramifications it had for the general public.
If you haven't watched Doctor Strange, the first one in a while, Gadget, watch that before you see it because there's a lot.
All right.
It's definitely a direct sequel from that.
Fair enough.
So yeah, let's not bore people. God, I hate when we talk about MCUs too much because people are like, "I don't like it."
It's the biggest film out this week.
Exactly.
And you're
Get it
inevitably
watched.
going to do a spoiler cast of it next week.
Potentially. I don't. Me and Stig aren't really like that buzzing about it to do a spoiler cast. That's the thing.
See what you think, Gadget. I'll do one with you if you.
We can
enjoy
all
it.
do it. I'd rather us all do one, so we've got some positive spins on it. But
Right,
Gadget,
okay.
I can tell you one
There's
thing about
plenty of
this
positive
film.
stuff about it.
You're gonna love the music in it. As a music man that comes from down your way, you're gonna fucking love all the music in this.
I
Danny
will say
Danny
the
Elfman,
MCU stuff has generally gotten better and better with music over the years. Like they
This
seem to get
potentially
some
might
very
be my
good
favorite
composers.
soundtrack since like the Infinity War and Endgame. I fucking
Yes,
love the soundtrack in this.
I still listen to the Loki soundtrack when I'm writing Scorched Sheep.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
it's a great
good.
soundtrack, that.
So good.
What's the end credits? Don't obviously reveal it, but are they revealing sort of what's happening next? Is there
Well, I know what's happening next, but there were a lot of people in that cinema going, "What?"
Well, the first one you definitely have
It's
to
like
watch.
that.
The second one, not so much.
I mean, the second, I actually loved the second one. But
I did.
We've accustomed to now is the first one after the first
The main one.
credits. That's the main thing. That's the thing and the one after the whole credits is a joke. And that's how they've done it since
Yeah, it's the Easter egg.
Spider-Man: Homecoming, I think, or even back to the Avengers.
Yes.
That was just them sat around in the shawarma restaurant. So don't be looking to the end one. You can wait to see that one if you're not that bothered. But I enjoyed it, being a fan of Sam Raimi and things.
Yeah.
So
What is next? What is next out? Movie wise,
Thor.
what they said. Thor.
Oh, come on, Taika, bring it back. Bring it back, baby.
well, Miss Marvel's TV show first.
Yeah, I'm going to love that as well. I know I am. Right, main topic. Come on, Stig. What are we doing?
So this was kind of brought on because of Picard recently, actually.
It's really got in your head, that Picard, hasn't it? Fucked you off.
It's shit. And this is basically, we're talking about things that have come back after a long time. Franchises or worlds that have been revisited after such a long break. And did it work? Didn't it work? Did we love it? Did we hate it? Was it necessary? Did it add anything to the story or the characters? Or was it just a simple cash grab? So, yeah, and Picard is really the driving force for this because it does not add anything to the story. And it's just pointless for me. Anyway, I don't want to rant about that too much. So, Gadget, you tell us about what you have.
Okay, so I'm going to take us back to the halcyon days of PC gaming, to the times when you had your little beige box on your desktop and life were good. Because in 1998, if you want to feel particularly old, a little game called Half-Life came out.
Oh, yeah,
Developed by
All right, wasn't it?
No, it was all right. Developed by, I think it was about 35 people. in
Hello,
Seattle.
Gordon.
Yes. 2 voice actors in the game.
Can't stop thinking about it. Hello, Gordon.
Hello, Gordon.
Yes. And when Half-Life came out, it kind of blew a lot of things out of the water, because it was at a time when, most of your first-person action games were your Doom clones. And at the time, Half-Life was referred to as a Doom clone rather than a first-person shooter. But it did things differently. For instance, it was one of the first games to do inline storytelling, as in you didn't get cutscenes in it.
It's ambient, isn't it? It's just constantly happening.
Yeah, it's happening already. You can engage with as much or as little of the story as you want. It took me to my second playthrough to realize there was a story. Like, I actually stopped and listened to the scientists. And
Yeah, 'cause if you don't run in Half-Life, because believe it or not, listeners, I really like Half-Life 1 a lot. I know
Half-Life 1's amazing.
I think it's fantastic and probably the last good first-person shooter or first-person game I played on PC. Really, back on the old cream box, like you said.
Yeah.
But when you're slow, when I am slow on these games, anyway, you've seen me playing BioShock. I'm slow on first-person shooters. You can listen to them chatting to each other and telling you. So it's really fucking clever.
Yeah, the game presents a lot of information in a way that you don't necessarily need to engage with it, but you can. So that became a bit of a revolution, and it kind of changed the course of first-person development, first-person game development, and actually a lot of action game development, because a lot of games moved away from the idea of taking you into a cutscene to tell you a bit of story and just let you have story in situ. Then there was a bit of a break on it. There was about 6 years. There was a couple of expansion packs came out made by Gearbox and Raven. But then
Is it Gearbox? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Gearbox did Opposing Force. Randy Pitchford's first game.
Blue Shift, is that?
Blue Shift. I think Blue Shift was the Raven one, or it might be Half-Life Decay was the Raven one.
I got Blue Shift on a dodgy gold disc. Remember them?
Oh yeah. Blue Shift was Gearbox.
Yeah, I played that
pack with Half-Life 1, Opposing Force.
Oh, did it in a big box?
Yeah, I think Counter-Strike.
Yeah,
I played a lot of Counter-Strike. I played a lot of that because that's all I had.
So in 2004, then, so nice little kind of 6-year gap, Half-Life 2 was released. And this one changed gaming again. It upped the production values. I remember the first time loading it up and seeing that opening cutscene with the G-Man kind of talking to Gordon. And incredible. absolutely incredible.
For the time, the graphics, it just looked
It was
amazing, didn't it?
But it wasn't just the graphics; it was the facial animations, like seeing how they animated him talking to you. But this one changed things with physics. It added like real-time physics to the game, where physics were normally kind of pre-programmed cutscene kind of things that happened within games. This one, I remember that first thing, you're going through the train station and the Combine soldier comes and knocks the can over and just pick it up. And it was just like, oh shit, you can pick it up, you can throw it at his head, you can drop it in the bin, everything. Like, yeah.
Do you know, I bought a new PC just so I could play this game.
So did I.
Yeah. The best.
What year was it? Sorry,
2004.
You bought your own PC in 2004. Someone's earning.
Yeah,
I was 19 in 2004.
What year? Fuck. Yeah. I weren't. Biggie was.
No, sorry, 18. I was 18 in 2004. But yeah, either way, I was earning. And by earning, I mean wasting student loans.
Worth it.
Oh, absolutely. And the following couple of years after that, you got the two expansion packs, Half-Life Episode 1 and Half-Life Episode 2, which left on a lovely little cliffhanger that they never resolved.
So that's why people are crying then, isn't it?
Yes.
For 3. I didn't know there was a cliffhanger.
Yes. Yeah, there's a very big cliffhanger at the end of Half-Life
I did not
Episode
know
2.
that. Now, if someone had just briefly told me that rather than tell me, you're the fucking wrong'un, just tell me that.
You are a wrong'un.
Yeah, just tell me there's a cliffhanger and I'd understand why people are crying. That's terrible.
So Half-Life Episode 2 ended on a cliffhanger.
What?
And then time passed. Lots of time passed. Until 13 years later, as the world was locking down into a pandemic, in March 2020, it was announced that Valve were releasing Half-Life Alyx. A virtual reality game. And, I mean, we all lost our collective shit. Because, wait, hang on, no, Half-Life game made by Valve. It's real. Bringing back Alex Vance, who was your companion throughout Half-Life 2 in VR. And I got my Oculus Quest like kind of late on in 2020 specifically to play this. Like, granted, there's some great things I can play on the Oculus, but I bought it to play Half-Life Alyx as soon as I could afford it. And it's incredible. It's so the thing with each Half-Life game is they've pushed technology forward in a weird and unexpected way. So, like I said, with the first, that's why I kind of went through in the first Half-Life, it was the method of storytelling. You know, like the levels weren't any more impressive than anything in like Unreal or Quake or anything like that. You know, they were kind of big, just lots of big boxes, some set pieces and stuff like that. But it was still, that was kind of the way the levels worked. But it was the way it told the story. In Half-Life 2, also Zen was terrible. Zen was fucking awful, the end level. Half-Life 2 pushed things forward in terms of real-world immersion and physics. It gave you a lot more tools to interact with the world, and it gave you a lot more realism in terms of character animations and faces. And then when it came to Alyx, like, my computer is not particularly powerful. It is not the most powerful computer in the world.
I don't believe you.
It really isn't. I last upgraded in 2019, and even then it wasn't amazing in 2019. I put the headset on, I played Half-Life Alyx, and it's the most real world game I've played ever. I don't know what they've done to do it, but even on my kind of like creaking old PC, it plays and looks like the real world. Like I don't know if you remember, I streamed it when I got my Oculus, and I streamed an hour of it for us. And there was a point where my Twitch setup in VR had started to go a bit squiffy. So I thought, okay, I need to come off the headset and just change some settings. And I went to put the Oculus controllers down on a desk in the game. Like
You've clearly not played Gone. That's the most realistic game I've played on VR.
I have played Gone.
I've played Gone.
But yeah, it's like it's so immersive and so realistic and so fucking scary. Like it's a I think without deliberately trying, apart from maybe one or two sections, it is the most horror game I've ever played. There is well, so you get a section quite early on when you're kind of creeping through the sewers, and you come to a place in the sewers, kind of like an end point of it, where there is a person who's been caught by one of the limpets, you know, the things that hang from the ceiling.
Oh, the strings.
Yeah. Also, they're terrifying in VR. But anyway,
They're terrifying
you
on the original Half-Life.
No, worse than VR. No, worse than VR. No, worse than VR.
When you get
you
pulled up by
walk
them.
into this room and it's staged as basically this is a murder room, because basically this body is hanging from the limpet. There is a torch behind him, so he's in silhouette, and the rest of the room is dark. And you walk up to him, you pick up the key for the door that you need to get through. You turn around and you hear the sound of head crabs coming, and I shit myself. Because it is so set up for a scare. Yeah.
They're coming for you.
Well, what you don't realize as well when you're playing Half-Life is head crabs are the size of a dog jumping at your head. In VR, that's awful.
You don't like spiders, do you?
No, I do not. So the black armored ones that poison you, they're
Like
even worse because
spiders.
they've got long, spindly legs. There is a sequence kind of later in the game where you have to meet Jeff. Jeff is awful. Jeff is a creature that has been mutated by the Combine.
You're not finished this, Dig?
No.
Jeff is a blind monster that can one-shot you. And you find him in a bottle factory.
Oh, no.
So you have to go and puzzle around while you've got this creature doing a kind of like random around looking for you. A little bit like like any number of fucking horror creatures.
Is it like the old hero in Demon Souls?
Yes, exactly like the old hero, but monstrous.
Reference.
If you make a noise, for instance, like you need to get a key out of a cupboard, you open the cupboard and a bottle will fall out. Now, if you're quick enough, you can catch it using physics. But if that bottle smashes, Jeff will come running.
Oh, Jeff, no.
And Jeff will kill you in one shot.
Is that his name, have you named him Jeff?
No, he's called Jeff.
If you named him Jeff.
That's a good name for a baddie, that.
My name's Jeff.
Well, he's
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, he's a mutated human. So I think the level's called something like we don't talk about Jeff or something like that.
We don't talk about Jeff.
So Half-Life Alyx kind of pushes everything forward in a way, and without spoiling anything for it. If you can make it to the end of the game, because it's getting to the end takes some fucking guts. But if you make it to the end of the game, it resolves the cliffhanger.
Oh, there you go, Stig. What's stopping you?
Time.
Now.
Forgetting about it.
Yeah,
Elden
You got them
Ring.
dust off that VR as well.
So
I played some VR recently, actually, but beats it and stuff.
So the game isn't developed by many people who were on the original Half-Life development team, because most of them have left Valve at this point.
They died of old age.
A lot of the kind of primary development team and kind of some of the more vocal people are the people who came in from Campo Santo when Valve bought them.
Mm.
And for podcast nerds, the people behind the Idle Thumbs podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it was only made by about 50 people, which is incredible given the amount of detail in the world.
I have noticed this, right? These VR devs, they're not massive teams, a lot of them, are they?
No,
It's
this
such a niche thing.
This was a pretty small... This was a pretty small kind of development team within Valve.
Wow.
And it's utterly incredible. It actually pushed adoption of VR headsets into the mainstream. Like,
Of course it did.
if you look at the stats before Alyx was announced and after Alyx was announced, the amount of VR headsets on PC VR was minimal. Like, there was a hardcore kind of user base. But like as soon as the game was announced and people were like, no shit, this is actually real, this is the closest we're getting to Half-Life 3, you couldn't buy a headset for love nor money. Valve released their own one, the Valve Index, priced at $1,000 for the whole setup.
So Gadget bought one.
No, I don't have an Index. I have a Quest. And like that sold out instantly.
And there's been nothing since. No other games since on VR.
No, it's the only VR game.
It's the only VR game.
But yeah, it's a game that the wait was absolutely justified with it. If you've got the testicular fortitude to get through it, that is. I only got through it by putting on God mode and infinite ammo. It was just one of those things because
mate, there's no shame in that.
Well, yeah, it's simply because it's the head crabs. I'm so scared of them. I would literally be so. There's 3 cheats that you put on: God mode, infinite ammo, and there's no reload. Because with it being in VR, to reload, you've got to cock the gun, you've got to pull the bullet out, put the shell back in, cock it, and that kind of thing. I literally walked into every room just blasting the shotgun like Danny DeVito, just fucking I started blasting, just making sure that nothing moved. When I stopped firing, if anything else moves, I start firing again.
That's what I do when there's an actual spider in my house as well.
Yeah, same here.
Can't wait to see Gadget
my
Laser
landlord hates
Quest. Just shooting everything inside.
Fine with Laser Quest, it's just these fucking head crabs. Because it does that thing as well. If a head crab zombie's coming towards you and you kill it, the head crab can sometimes jump off and jump at you. So it's just.
Well, what would you do if you went to Laser Quest and then Steam came out? Head crabs unleashed. Head crabs unleashed. What would you do then?
Just put the little gun to my head and hope the laser's strong.
The laser gun to my head.
But yeah, it was absolutely worth the wait, and it did move on VR significantly. Like it's the biggest budget, the biggest and the highest production value VR game still to date, but it's pushed a lot of developers into looking into more VR stuff. Like I'm really excited to see what, in response to this, what comes out for like PSVR 2. And like the investment that's coming into that, and you get stuff like where people are experimenting. You can do Hitman 3 in VR now, and people are Hitman 3 VR is a thing.
Oh shit! I might get a PSVR 2 just so I'm there from the ground up, and then I can be invested in it.
Yeah,
so I was so late to the party on the last one.
Yeah, so it made a lot of people very excited with VR, and also proved that there is a market for it. So yeah, it was definitely worth the wait.
Cool.
I just need to get it finished.
You absolutely do. I need to desperately talk to you about the end of the story.
Yeah, it's anything to do with that. Like that kind of stuff doesn't bother me.
He says that, listeners.
No, I don't, honestly, that stuff doesn't bother me. It's 2 reasons. Is mainly I just keep forgetting. You have to set it up and things like that, which isn't that much of a headache, but it just makes me feel a bit sick.
Yeah.
If I play it
do you do smooth movement or teleport?
Both.
Because I was struggling with motion sickness with it, but the teleporting.
But I kind of like it. Prefer it to be more. I know it does make me feel a bit more sick. But it makes me feel a bit more immersed that when I'm moving rather than jumping from.
Why don't you get one of them 3D treadmills jumping from play it properly?
One place to another. I need to.
Yeah.
You up?
Get them 3D treadmills and play it properly. Like
that would be nice.
Oh yeah.
But they're $1,000.
You've got $1,000.
I ain't. But listeners, if you go deep down in our YouTube channel, there's an hour of me playing the game on Twitch from the start. And if you ever want to,
I'm going to watch that.
You were watching it live.
Oh, all right. How drunk was I?
It's been a while.
Very. I mean, to be fair, it was 2020. We were pretty new at this. But if you go back and watch that, you will hear me, at least for the first 20 minutes of the game, giggling like a school child. Walking through City 17, having the walkers moving around, like being really overwhelmed by the size of the drop ships and stuff like that.
I think I remember this.
And then nearly shitting myself when
or something.
Yeah, we start off on a balcony.
Yeah, I
think I remember nearly shitting myself when the Combine arrested me, because that's not pleasant to have a Combine soldier like taser you in the chest.
No, it's not. It's great though. Like the stuff they've done with it is so good. Even just like picking up pens. I was like at one point as well, walked into rooms.
We just writing on the whiteboard.
Started playing piano.
That's why he's not beat it. he's doing calculations on a whiteboard.
The world's completely interactive. It's so much in it.
More like drawing cocks, but
of course you drew a cock. That's the first thing you draw.
Yep.
Big old wanger.
Right, excellent gadget. That is perfect. So Biggie, what about yourself?
So yeah, Fallout 2 came out in 1998 as a role-playing video game. Developed by Black Isle Studios and published by Interplay Productions.
Banger of a game.
It was very similar to the previous game, which was out a year earlier. It was that isometric role-playing sort of strategy RPG. It looked fine. It was quite funny, very popular. And then there was a big gap. Fallout 3 was eventually developed by Bethesda after they took the rights away from Interplay Entertainment. I'm sorry, I've just realised I've forgotten the date of when Fallout 3 came out.
2008.
2008, thank you. So yeah, it was completely different. Blew a lot of people away, upset a lot of people as well, because it took a completely different direction.
I fucking loved 3. I fucking loved it.
Well, I only played a little bit of Fallout 1, and I saw a friend playing Fallout 2, if I remember right. But yeah, just it completely different. It went into the 3D realm, first-person view, although it can be played in both third-person as well, if I remember right.
Yep.
But yeah, it was released worldwide in October on Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. what I love about this game, as soon as the tutorial is sort of set with you as a kid.
So clever.
You're born, you see your father sort of talking to you. You learn
Not
how
just
the
any
movement
dad.
works in the games.
One of the best dads.
It's the Liam Neesons of
Liam
dads.
Neeson dad.
Absolutely.
And it was just a really nice, simple but clever tutorial. And then once you eventually step out of the vault into the worldwide, what's wrong with me today? The wide world.
World.
Yeah, it was horrific. It was just horrific.
It's my favourite vault opening that they've done that one on 3.
It's brilliant. It has that really long drawn out of the gears
so good.
pulling back.
We tried it again in
Yeah.
4 and it wasn't the same.
It was
No,
still pretty
it
good in 4. Their reveal moments are quite good, I think, with the Fallout games.
There wasn't
I
one in
think
New
so,
Vegas that
definitely.
much, was there? Because you're already
I don't think you don't start in a vault in New Vegas,
no,
do
you
you?
just start in a grave, don't you?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for the
Yeah.
beginning of New Vegas, guys.
But yeah, because the viewpoint was so different,
Yeah.
it just got you into that world immediately. And it's a horrific world because literally around every corner there was some danger of some sort, some weird character that you would meet. And if you go onto the internet and just search around for the horror stories of all the various vaults that are scattered around the map, there's some really dark stories written into
Cannibal
this.
ones and stuff, isn't there?
Such good. I love the Garys. I think the Garys was in Fallout
Garys is
3.
great.
Yeah.
Did you not?
there's
You're talking
sorry,
about
go
the Fallout gap. Did you not play Brotherhood of Steel in between on the PS2?
No,
We don't talk about Brotherhood of Steel.
Because that's definitely not a Fallout game, but it's a Fallout game.
So
But it's
It
definitely
is.
not a good game either.
No.
no.
I
And
I
the
played
DLC
Fallout
was
3,
called Brothers of Steel in this.
Yeah.
and so I never played Fallout 2. Didn't know what it looked like. I'm just looking at it now. These are completely different games.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah, they are.
Completely different games.
They're like Shadowrun
that's-
and games like that.
That's insane. That it's just the direction that's gone.
The jump,
Like,
and in fact,
yeah,
the
it's
art
so
director of
different.
the original game was
Yeah.
very upset about the direction.
Well,
that
they made
Fallout
Wasteland
took.
instead, didn't they?
And then they made Wasteland, which is back to the sort of the way it
Yeah.
used to play.
Which are
But,
good as well.
I mean, I fell in love with this game. I literally walked every single foot of that map. I wanted to discover everything I could find, whether it was bobbleheads that you could collect for extra perks, whether it was the Nuka-Cola bottles that you want to get hold of. And I had a little base at is it Megaton? If I remember
Megaton,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I had a little
Right.
base there and a little
I didn't have
room
a base
there, and
there.
I was
I
decorating.
didn't have a base there either. There was nothing left.
Oh, you
They all
10
turned on me.
bitches.
There was nothing left there.
Because you had that
Bye.
wonderful choice whether to set off a nuke in Megaton
As if I'm
or
not going to set off a nuke in a game. Are you crazy?
Do you know what? Do you know the only reason I set a nuke off was just because I wanted to see what it looked like.
Same.
graphically.
I did too.
I was like,
It looked
this
incredible.
looks good, and it did.
Do you know what? I
yeah.
didn't even get that far. I
then I went back
stopped
to
playing
my
it for a
save.
couple of weeks, and then I was in Megaton when I kind of respawned, and I couldn't remember the button, so I was pressing stuff, and I accidentally stabbed somebody, and then they all turned on me.
You should have gone and nuked him then.
I did.
Oh,
I
good.
just want to roll back on what you just said there, Biggie. You save scummed.
I wanted to see what happened with the
Oh, you
Megaton.
can't make a
Oh.
decision like that and then go back on
Mate,
it. You
I
pick
have
Yes,
never
one or the
you
saved
other.
can.
scummed in my entire
I
life.
did.
I'm
Because I just wanted to see what happened.
vehemently
And then I went
against
back.
safe scumming. I hate people when they do it for trophies. I hate people when they do it in game. Just stick to your decision, like real life role play.
Yeah.
You terrible
But yeah,
man.
because I got the Game of the Year edition, I think it was. So I was a bit late to the party because, again, I wasn't really a big fan of the original game. So hearing so many good things about it, I ended up getting that. So obviously it had all the DLC. And if I remember right, all the DLC was already there on the maps. So literally, depending
Mothership
where you
Zeta,
went,
that was so good.
unlocked things. Yeah, the mothership it was fantastic.
I loved the pit. The pit was
the
fantastic.
pit was so
The
good. I didn't
pit.
expect it to be that big.
No, it was
Yeah.
enormous.
And yeah, and the DLC were massive.
So big.
Mm.
Absolutely massive. So it was totally value for money, without doubt. The VAT system was great, where you could either, shoot as if you were playing a first-person shooter, or you could use VATs.
Turn-based.
they slow the
Kind
game
of
right
turn-based,
down.
wasn't it?
But they put that
Yeah,
in there
and
because the
it
shooting
was
mechanics
still
in the Bethesda
moving.
engine is terrible.
Any
It
mechanics in
is,
that
it is.
engine's terrible.
And Todd Howard, thanks for that. But yeah, the VATS technique was fantastic. It was great to slow everything down. You could target parts of the body.
There was tactic to it as well because it made your weapons worse, didn't it, when you used it?
No,
I was a big
there's
fan
always
of
weapon
the-
degradation in it.
Did it even if you didn't use VATS? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm sure there was a boost to it. If you used VATS, you degraded quicker or something like that. Sure it is. Prove me wrong, listeners, please.
And then the perks that you could pick up were all sorts of things. We had little sort of mini powers where you were immune to
Lead belly.
radiation. And the what was the? Is it the Unknown Stranger or something? I
Yeah,
can't remember his name.
Mysterious
The
Stranger.
Mysterious Stranger.
When you
yeah.
used to whistle and then it just one-shot everything.
He was great.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
Dun, 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 dun.
Especially because obviously it was nice when you just turn up in a normal battle, but when you're actually struggling, you're about to die, and then he turns up, it's like
He was dressed like the guy in Thor, the robot guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was
The
like he looked like a
detective.
spy, doesn't he?
Like a detective,
Yeah.
yeah, spy.
Which gives you a very nice little sub quest if you pick Mysterious Stranger in Fallout 4 and you've got Nick Valentine with you.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. You get little bits of dialogue because one of Nick Valentine's quests is to find the Mysterious Stranger. And so, like, if he pops up in the middle of a VATS fight, and you'll get a voice line from Nick going, "Damn it, I saw him again and I missed him."
Oh, that's so cool. Don't make me try and play Fallout 4 again because I don't want the beginning again. Oh, God.
Play it on PC
But
and
yeah,
mod the beginning out of it.
Yeah, mod the fucker out to get rid. It will run on
But
my
I love
laptop.
this game. I absolutely got everything I could get out of that game and was thoroughly
Oh, it's a
Fallout
banger.
full.
It's a Billy banger.
And to the point, unfortunately, that when Vegas came out, I couldn't play it because I just had done too much Fallout. There was a little
Fatigued
gap.
yourself.
Vegas came out. And I still to this day, I've never gone back to playing
Oh,
Vegas.
mate,
One day I
Vegas.
should.
Oh,
New
that's a
Vegas
real
I wanna go
shame.
back.
Special.
It's
So
actually
special.
New Vegas is the superior game because good as Fallout 3 is,
Yeah.
New Vegas has that Obsidian writing to it.
It's so
It's
special.
got Chris Avellone writing. Oh, it's so good.
God, the
I do feel
tribes and
like I've
stuff
still
like
got the
that.
save.
Oh,
I can always go back to it and maybe just start again. Who knows?
I fucking love it, but he
But
ran
in-
like shit, though.
It
It
did.
runs fine now though, especially if you
Oh,
play it on
probably,
PC.
yeah. Hmm.
But in November 2015, Electronic Entertainment Design and Research had a look into how many copies they think it sold. And they reckon back then it was 12.4 million copies.
Yeah, that'll do.
Not only that, but the fans were very unhappy. The big die-hard Fallout fans. There was a support network, I think they were called, a fan site called No Mutants Allowed, criticised the direction it took from the originals. But obviously, I guess they were sated when Wasteland came out.
I don't know when as
Fallout.
soon as you said that, I had a picture of what those people looked like, and I think we can all agree they all look exactly the same.
People on the bulletin board pining over a 10-year-old game.
Yeah. I bet they look like a comic book guy from Simpsons.
That's what I was
Yeah.
Worst
And the Fallout
Fallout
3 won
ever.
several awards back then. IGN gave it sort of Game of the Year, and GameSpot gave it Best Role Playing Game, and so on.
Yes,
And
man.
eventually, it actually has been. Where is it? I had it written here. In 2012, Fallout 3 was exhibited in the Art of Video Games at the Smithsonian American Art Museum. And in
It
November
deserves it.
2015, it's been made available on Xbox One via Xbox Live as part of the titles dedicated to backward compatibility. So it's available to everybody everywhere if they want to play it.
I bet
It's
that runs
rated-
really nice on Xbox, doesn't it now?
Yeah, it came 10 in the top 100 RPGs of all time list. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a lovely game, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, what
So
a
worth the
direction
wait.
it took from the original.
I think the
Definitely
first
worth
two
it,
are on
isn't it?
Game Pass.
Yeah, I think they're all on Game Pass now, aren't they?
Yeah,
Due to-
everything is pretty much.
Due
from
to-
No,
the
I've never
developers.
played
Yeah,
the first.
yeah.
I've never played the first two. I need to
I
play.
like
heard the-
two. I like two a lot. I wasn't massive on one. I thought it was too difficult, but two.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. Apparently, in the instruction book is basically like a big tome.
Oh yeah, it's like D&D playbook. It's fucking ridiculous. But two.
It's
really
they're
good.
both old school CRPGs that
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the same. It's like going back and playing Baldur's Gate now. It's just like
Yeah.
it's fucking hard.
Icewind Dale.
Oh yeah. So but they are worth playing. I played through 1 and 2 a couple of years back.
Yeah, I like
And
them.
it took a while.
Yeah.
Then there's not much in those games, but they're really fucking long. But they're so
You can
deep
also
and dense with
play
things to do.
Wasteland because they're just as good.
Yeah.
Writing's not as good, I don't think personally, but yeah, gameplay.
Yeah, I mentioned it before. I was disappointed with Fallout 4. I enjoyed it a little bit, and I just It didn't feel like it was much more of a step up from 3, in my opinion. But again, maybe
It's
I
just
should
that
revisit it.
beginning of the game. Like the first 10 hours is dull, and then it opens up and becomes a really good game.
That's the problem. You got to get past the
narrative.
The narrative. What are the guys? The guy with the cowboy hats on.
Minutemen.
Minutemen.
Garvey.
God, fuck off! Fuck off!
But apart from what happened with 76, it's been very quiet since then about what they're going to do with this franchise. I'd be interested.
Banger, isn't it? Apparently.
Happens.
Do you know what? I would be surprised if we don't see anything around June to do with Fallout, because there's a TV show coming out. They started filming it, and I think they'd be silly to not at least have some remasters coming out around the same time as that TV show.
Just get 3 redone, yeah.
Yeah.
But just redo 3 in New Vegas in the Fallout 4 engine.
One big package.
That'd suit me fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's already been modded, hasn't it? They've already done New Vegas in the creation engine just by modders. But yeah, they need an official one, and I'd be very surprised
do it in the
if
creation engine.
Yeah, ideally.
It needs to
Any
go
engine,
back to
but-
the single player game. It can't go multiplayer again. I think that was a massive faux pas.
People still play 76. It's got a market.
Do they?
It's got a community.
Yeah.
I played it
Do they?
hardcore for about a year and a half, and
Yeah, people play it. It's got
yeah, the
it's got more
Fallout
players
first.
than Halo multiplayer at the moment. Tell you that
Oh,
much.
God. There's nothing that tempts me back to it. Put it that way. I played it. I got as much as I could out of it, and no, not anymore. I've had enough. I've learnt my lesson.
Yeah. Never
Great.
pre-order.
Good one. A very good one, that Biggie. I'll go next. I'm not bringing a game. I'm talking about a novel, or a series of novels. So in 1995, Philip Pullman brought the first novel of his Dark Materials to the world in the Northern Lights. Subsequently, The Subtle Knife and the Amber Spyglass in 97 and 2000. They are outstanding pieces of work, especially for like young people, young children novels. It tells the story of Lyra and Will as they kind of hop between worlds, trying to evade the Magisterium, which is basically their version of the church. And it involves things like witches and armored bears and the specters and weird cow-like creatures rolling around on big nuts. That sounds it's crazy,
What?
but they're
What? Say what?
Yeah, it is such a great, interesting book. So it just mixes all kinds of weird, kind of Narnia-esque things in with this story of oppressive churches and governments, and Lyra is kind of stuck in the middle of all of this mainly because of the power that she has to read the lithiometer and the stuff that her dad's doing and who her mother's connected to, and it kind of goes in places which a children's novel you wouldn't expect. There's some real big themes in there, especially in the third novel when it starts to talk about angels and God and demons and that kind of thing. And
We must kill God.
pretty much.
I do like that trope. I know it is a trope, but I kind of enjoy it.
But what drew me about this as well was not just the world that it's set in, is that Lyra comes from a world where you have what is known as a demon, which is in essence a kind of part of your soul, but it manifests itself in an animal who is always with you. And because she's only young, I think at the time she's 12 in the novels, her demon hasn't taken its form yet, so Pantalaimon can change form, so he's constantly changing between different animals. But it's really interesting when she meets adults and stuff in terms of what their demons are and what they've settled on. And
Does she know the name of the demon and remember it?
Who?
Wow. I can't believe you're pulling that reference.
What's that?
It's a
He's doing
Scorched sheep
Scorched
reference.
sheep.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's why Candy's been quiet.
Stinking into my chair.
Yeah.
That's the most
I did
meta
forget
of
the name.
references.
Listen to episode 23 of Scorched Sheep if you want to understand that joke.
Yes, definitely.
In fact, no, listen to them all.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
but that specifically
never-
that joke is in 23.
So I never read these novels when they first came out. I
remember seeing the Amber Spyglass being advertised in 2000 and looking at it and thinking it looked good. My mum had kind of recommended it to me as well.
I've seen that book cover years. You know, when
Yeah.
it first came out, it's a very, very iconic book cover. And when you see them all together as well, it looks fucking brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, I picked up the first one, read through that, read through the second, read through the third. Absolutely love them. I've listened to the audio versions of these. They are done in a like play, like they're voice acted and everything. Yeah, it's performance rather than just like someone reading.
I've got them lined up on my
really
Audible. I've had them lined up for about a year now. I've got used them with my credits, and I'm just
I
need to get to them.
Stage adaptations of it. Obviously, New Line Cinema did a terrible film of it in 2007.
Yeah, we've not talked about that before, have we?
Yeah, where we have.
No.
Ranted about it. But yeah, and then currently the third series from the BBC/HBO adaptation is on its way later this year.
You liked that, didn't you?
Yeah, really liked it. I thought it's like brought it to life really well. Like really well cast.
Is Daniel Craig back on it?
No, it's James McAvoy.
Oh, is it?
Playing
Oh,
that
I
part.
like a bit of
Yeah.
McAvoy.
He plays that character better than
Yes, he
than
does.
he did
Right.
anyway. It still
better.
didn't hit for me, but it was better than the film.
I like McAvoy. He's really good.
I'm unlikely
I don't know. He
to
listens
read
to the show.
books. I'm unlikely to read the books. Is it worth me checking out that TV show?
Yeah. If like
Just fucking read
I
it,
really
mate.
like the TV show. I like the adaptation.
I
of
don't
it.
read. I don't have
I
time.
can't read.
But yeah, so that kind of finished in 2000, and then he did like a little kind of follow-on story. It's a tiny book. It's not even a novella. It is
Like an
literally-
epilogue.
Yeah, like a separate little book called Lyra's World, which kind of just tells the just how she's feeling after the events of the third book. And that's it. You don't really get any more. And then he announced that he was coming back to that world with the Book of Dust. So in 2017, we got the first Book of Dust, which was called La Belle Sauvage, which is kind of a prequel. Well, it's not kind of a prequel, it is a prequel. So
Nice.
it is set when Lyra is a baby, and it focuses on Malcolm, who kind of ends up having to take care of Lyra due to various things going on. She ends up just being in his possession. Like, he has this baby and he does everything he can to protect her, and that is kind of setting up where the story then goes after in the second book.
Is this the guy in the Arctic at the beginning?
No. So this
is that
is
somebody else? I've seen that film, but I just can't remember it.
nothing to do with that.
All right.
These obviously these books have come out 17 years after the novel was finished, so the character Malcolm was never conceived back then. He's a brand new character.
Fair enough.
And it just kind of sets the tone and who Malcolm is and what his connection to Lyra is, and he's kind of a protector for her. And then The Secret Commonwealth is the second book that came out in 2019, and that takes place after the events of His Dark Materials. And this is kind of where we pick up from Lyra on her, continue with her story, and dealing with the after effects and kind of the trauma of that, and what happens between her and a demon in it. And I really don't want to spoil it.
Don't. 'Cause I'm getting into that.
It is a
soon.
massive thing that happens between them. But suffice to say, they aren't getting on at all. There is conflict between the two, and it just develops the story further. It pushes on the story, as you'd imagine in this, like the magisterium, people like that. They're still around. You know, they are, as I say, they are essentially just the Catholic Church. You know, no matter they might have done something in this part to defeat a section of it, but as a whole, it is still a huge thing around the world. So they're still in there, kind of causing her problems. It pushes her out of Oxford and further into the world, like across Europe and into what is essentially the Middle East.
Nice.
But just telling the story along the way, and I really, really enjoy them. It's a worry when you come back to a story like this, especially so many years down the line.
Was it worth the wait then? Because I know it wasn't exactly the 17 years for you, but
Yeah, because it's one of those ones where I actually would. I have a problem sometimes with novels. When they end, I still want more.
Same.
I still want.
No, I'm
I
saying,
want
mate.
more. I want to be with those characters again. I want to be back in those worlds.
You're with them for a long time. That's the thing.
Yeah, even if the story is concluded, and really there isn't anything to tell, I want to know what happens next. I want
I
to know.
couldn't
where
imagine
they've gone and
what
they
you did on Last Harry Potter. I bet you were crying. What do I do? What do I do?
I'd still love more of that, but obviously we won't get that.
It's fuck all about that,
No.
seriously.
No.
Yeah, I really like just being back in that world because I love the kind of the world that Lyra comes from. This one is set in her world this time, so again there is people with demons and all kind of things going on. You're meeting a whole new cast of characters. We're finding more about what dust is, what this rose oil is, this new kind of MacGuffin, if want for a better word, but it kind of is. But yeah, it's a story that I absolutely loved as a child, and yeah, the wait for more of the stories in this world was well worth it, in my opinion. I don't know whether you've read them, Candy, or not.
No, I've read the original 3. I haven't read any of the new ones. I did have Lyra's Oxford, and I think I must have read it. I don't remember. I don't remember it like the original 3. But
No,
I remember
Lyra's Oxford is not much. It's just a kind of a little story to say this is what Lyra's doing now, and then it ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I got into it after the 3rd one was released because it was the 3rd one that was getting all the attention from all the awards and everything, wasn't it?
He won Best Book of the Year and stuff, didn't it? The New
Yeah,
York Times
it did
bestseller
really,
and
really
stuff.
well. I think that's where a lot of people
Smashed.
jumped onto it.
Yeah, it's kind of been like viewed as one of the most important novels of the last 70 years for children. It's like within the top 10 list or something of that.
I think my nephew, they're reading it at school. That's how important these are now. They've become the new. You know, when you do it in English, and you like now. When I was younger, it was Lord of the Rings. I won't be doing that now because it's too long for teachers to read.
I can understand why though, because
my
some
kids
of the
to read
themes
it.
that it deals with. Sorry, Stig.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say I'd be happy to read it to my eldest now, or for her to read it. Yeah, even though the themes are like Candy was saying there, some of the themes they are quite hard hitting, but they.
No, but sometimes if you're there reading it to your daughter, you can explain, you can add context to things. And I think it's a good moment, good things to have, good
That'd
bonding.
be dangerous for me. What happened there, Daddy? Shit kicked off.
No, she's reading it to you. Don't be daft.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just in terms of these novels, it is set, kind of 10 years after the Dark Materials. So we're now seeing Lyra in like adulthood, as she's been at the college and learning, her education and stuff, and then events have kind of led her out to go somewhere else. So now we're getting a completely different Lyra, like one that's a bit more, she was always kind of brash and fearless as a 12-year-old. So now as a 20-year-old, she can handle herself a lot better than a 12-year-old can.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that different dynamic.
Cool.
But yeah, I just, really looking forward to the 3rd one, whenever that comes out, because there is no set date for it yet.
Never rush an author, a good author. I've always thought that. Don't do it.
Yeah, you say that, but I'm still waiting on a lot of other novels to come out.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a
Hopefully
good
they
few
will be
actually.
worth the wait, but
I'm waiting for a 10-year one.
Winds of Winter is going to be worth the wait.
Oh, no, it's not. No, it's never going to live up to it. Crikey.
Never coming out. That man's going to die before that book comes out.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
gonna
that
write
Yellow
it.
Pages advert? Which book are you looking for? Yes, it's George R. Martin.
So, Candy, what have you got?
So, third Doctor, in fact, we've spoken about this evening. Doctor Sleep. Doctor Sleep is the sequel to The Shining.
Red rum.
And what I'll be chatting about actually is the films rather than the book. So it's worth noting that while I have read the novel of The Shining, I haven't actually read Doctor Sleep. So actually, if any listeners... Well, if any listeners have read both and they've got opinions to add, then just please write in because I'll be interested to know how important it is actually to read the book. Yeah,
I really
it's just very different from the film, isn't it?
I think that's what ruined it. I watched the film first.
Which
yeah.
is weird.
How does it differ?
Yeah,
Massively.
massively.
In every
I'll get
aspect.
into that actually. Yeah,
In every aspect, really.
Doesn't the hotel blow up in the book?
Yeah. So anyway, So The Shining film was released in 1980, famously directed by Stanley Kubrick and supposedly hated by Stephen King.
It was his film after the moon landing, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
Oh!
Oh,
Was it?
fuck.
I'm in your camp. Never happened.
I'm joking. It did.
Anyways, so yeah, hated by Stephen King. Doctor Sleep was released in 2019 and it was directed by Mike Flanagan. So there's a gap of 39 years, 40 years almost. Mike Flanagan, by the way, if you're unfamiliar, he recently directed those TV shows Midnight Mass and Haunting of Hill House as well. So he's
I should check that out.
loads of really good horror director. So the plot, and this is taken from IMDb, reads: years following the events of The Shining, a now adult Dan Torrance must protect a young girl with similar powers from a cult known as the True Knot, who prey on children with powers to remain immortal. Years after the traumatizing events of the Overlook Hotel, Dan Torrance is now an alcoholic struggling to find a job. He moves to a small town in New Hampshire and becomes Dr. Sleep. He then meets Abra Stone, a teenager with the brightest shine he's ever seen. The shine being his like psychic powers, so she's got the same psychic powers as he. When he learns that a cult of evil beings called the True Knot are chasing her with the intent to eat her shine, he does everything in his power to protect her, including returning to the Overlook. Now, for the majority of this film, if you missed the link to The Shining from the name Dan Torrance, you'd be forgiven for not realizing it's actually a sequel to The Shining. It could very easily be a standalone film. I'm not sure you'd even necessarily need to know the events of the original.
You did in the book.
So-
I've read both books, but I've not watched Doctor Sleep.
Yeah, it'd be
In
interesting.
the book, it's very linked.
So yeah, that's what I was reading. So so using the logic of it being a standalone film, say it's fine. The story's fine. Although it's much more of a kind of a fantastical film than the original Shining, as it's dealing with what essentially are kind of vampires, and it focuses more on Danny's psychic powers and the paranormal elements. Whereas The Shining, I guess,
The slasher.
well, in the film version, certainly it's more of a story of an alcoholic writer's descent into madness. I think in the book, the paranormal events are very, very real, but it's in the book, it's very much a haunted hotel. But
definitely.
in the film, the argument could be made that it's all happening in Jack Torrance's head, I think.
Yeah,
That's right. That's what Stephen King's biggest beef with it was.
I
Because
figured that was probably
his
the case,
whole
yeah.
omniverse or universe is everything's linked and everything's real.
Yeah. So I
Shining was
can
just this
understand
one-off
why
thing, wasn't it? He didn't like it.
So yeah, maybe that's why there was not crossed wires, but a misinterpretation, maybe. But curiously, like the final scenes of the film, Danny returns to the Overlook, and that's where the film falls apart for me a little bit. There's a scene where Danny's sitting at the bar of the hotel, famously that Jack Torrance was used to sit at, and the camera's kind of placed as if it's behind the bar, and there's a waiter in the foreground, so the waiter's got his back to the camera, and it's very obviously Jack Torrance. And the scene would have worked because obviously he's got the same hairstyle, he does the voice really well. Had the camera stayed behind him, I think the scene would have worked perfectly, but it's when the camera kind of pans round and you see his face and it's not Jack Nicholson. I can't understand why
Is
they
it
made
CG
that
Jack
decision.
Nicholson or just
No,
somebody else?
it's not. It's just some guy with this kind of passing resemblance to him, and
It's Johnny.
he's completely irreplaceable, isn't he? There's no one that's on the same, certainly on such an iconic role as well.
Yeah.
He does a good job of mimicking his voice, but it's just not Jack Torrance. So I think it would have worked a little bit better had they just left the camera behind. But Stanley Kubrick's directing style, it's unique, and while you can tell Mike Flanagan certainly made nods towards it, I think he kind of managed to rein it in a little bit to the point where it didn't look like a wish version of Stanley Kubrick. I think that probably would have been an easy trap to fall into.
Kubrick wasn't scared of long shots and Dutch angles and stuff like that, was he?
There's so much that's so iconic about the way he films things.
Likes to tip a camera upside down.
I'm also sure Flanagan probably didn't work the cast half to death, reshooting to get the right
You hope
attention.
not. You never know. I think there was possibly a bit of overuse and a overbearing heartbeat within the soundtrack. But other than that, it's fine. Ewan McGregor does a good job as Danny Torrance. I think Rebecca Ferguson is more standout. Yeah, she's playing the role of Rose, who's the leader of the Knots.
Rose the Hat. Make sure
Rose the Hat. Sorry, I apologise. Rose the Hat. The magical hat.
Yeah.
So she has the advantage of not having to act up to somebody that's already played the role. And you haven't got most people that have seen it, not read the book, they don't have any idea who she has to be. So she potentially has a bit of an easier job, but she certainly stands out. But overall, the film's it's fine. It certainly does nothing to tarnish the memory of the original film like some sequels do.
There's already an extended director's cut, isn't there?
Oh, is there?
Yeah, already. So apparently an extra half an hour
on
an already long film.
Yeah, doesn't need it. But had it not had links to the original Shining, I think it would have probably gone completely under the radar. As a direct sequel to The Shining, I would have liked a story more where it was kind of more about Danny Torrance dealing with the trauma of his childhood. And especially with Mike Flanagan directing it, he did The Haunting of Hill House so well. So it's like the characters are kind of recalling their time in the house, and it's kind of flashing between the present and the past. I think that could have worked brilliantly.
Did you know there was a funny thing with the marketing for this film? So in Europe and the rest of the world, they had their own poster, Dr. Sleep, Ewan McGregor's on it and stuff. But in the American one, they had to make it look like Here's Johnny.
Oh, of course.
To make people think, it's The Shining 2. I hated that about the marketing.
I'm not going to lie, though. You've piqued my interest. I'm quite interested in watching this now.
It's fine. There is a Here's Johnny moment as well, which had to be done, I think.
There is in the book, don't worry.
Oh, is there?
It's not, because in the book it's not Here's Johnny, is it, precisely? But there is the scary smashing through the door and stuff, and there is in the Dr. Sleep book as well, kind of thing.
Yeah. So,
Stephen King, what happened to you, mate?
I just don't think that King needed to bother returning to this story whatsoever.
I like his one-offs. I really like his one-offs.
I just found the film dull as fuck. In so much so that I'm looking at my letterbox there, and I just put Dr. Sleep indeed.
You little clever journalist.
I was so bored by this film.
Oh wow.
I didn't find it. It was just fine. It was an evening gone. I'm not mad at Netflix. I'm not going to be demanding my money. I'm not going to be demanding my subscription back. But was it worth the 40-year wait? Not really. No. It's just fine.
Yeah, one there that wasn't worth the wait, unfortunately. But you get them, don't you? Because sometimes they're just shit.
Yeah. It's probably just like, they knew that they would make money from it just with the, with the links to The Shining. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think Stephen King's best writing is behind him. I can't think of any books in the last 10 years that I've really enjoyed.
Got another one coming out next Friday.
Oh,
Firestorm or something, I think it's called.
Firestarter,
that's it.
That's right.
That's a good book, though.
Really?
That's a good book. So,
it's got Zac Efron in it, hasn't it?
Oh, what if he takes his top off?
Yeah, worth it.
Out there.
I forgot they were making for it.
That's the one about the girl that can that she's got pyrokinesis.
I mean, that's from
it's Carrie with Fire.
Isn't it? That's from the 1980s, so that was back in his
Carrie with Fire.
Yeah, Firestarter's a good
back
book.
in the day. Yeah,
good book.
It's not a new
Drew
novel.
Barrymore was fantastic in the movie.
I was going to say it was Drew Barrymore, wasn't it?
In what?
Yeah.
Firestarter.
In the original movie, Drew Barrymore
Yes.
played the kid. She was awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Just after E.T., I think she took that up.
Yeah, you have to be a really young kid in that.
I've seen the trailer. It doesn't. Yeah. Anyway, Oodles, round us off. What have you got?
It's positive, mine.
It's fine.
It's not going to be as long as everyone else's because I've talked about this ad nauseum, and I struggled with this topic, as you guys know. 2009, Dragon Quest IX, Sentinels of the Starry Skies, was released on Nintendo DS. Luckily, This idiot had a Nintendo DS. Not an idiot because it's a great console, but I already had one. So I didn't even realize that they took it because 8, as everyone knows, was PlayStation 2 game. I thought, well, 9 will come on PlayStation 2 or 3. Do you know what I mean? I thought that's where we were going now. Square Enix RPG. You all know what Dragon Quest is now. God,
Yeah.
Even Stig's an expert on it. It's the greatest Japanese role-playing game series of all time. It's better than Final Fantasy, guys. Come on. It says wearing a Final Fantasy t-shirt. But yeah, Dragon Quest 9 came out, and it was a good game. It's a typical Akihiro Hino game. He put a spin on it, because obviously the DS warranted short bursts, didn't it? Handheld games warrant short bursts. So what he did, instead of focusing too much on story, which the games do, he focused on the systems at play. He put a job system in that some of the other games had. So it was more about the gameplay and how you could min-max your party and stuff. Proper old school RPGs. You know what they're like. Nice little game. You played a little angel celestial thing, and you recruited your own party rather than there were set characters like we know and love from Dragon Quest games, because Dragon Quest games have excellent characters and stuff. With 9, you recruited your own. There were just hollow shells, basically, for you to turn into beautiful, beautiful party members. Then, 2012, Dragon Quest X came out on the Wii. But there's a big problem. You might think that's not a long gap. It released exclusively in Japan. And to this day, still exclusively in Japan. Broke my heart, that. One, I did have a Wii. You know I don't like the Wii, but I had one. Everyone had one. I think there was a Wii in every household at one point, wasn't there?
Pretty much. Even the Queen had one.
Yeah, a gold one.
Yeah.
I never had one.
You never had a
So
Wii?
No. The only Nintendo console I've ever had is a SNES. Oh, and a Game Boy Advance, that's it.
And that's where you've gone wrong in life. But yeah, it came out, and obviously I've seen it back in 2012. I was still reading magazines and stuff. I was like, this looks really good. Because there was some good little RPGs on the Wii that didn't have stupid motion controls. And this was an MMO RPG, and I wasn't that against multiplayer back then. So I'd have been all about that. You know what I mean? I'd have been up in its grill. But instead, no, we didn't get it. I had to wait till 2017. So an 8-year gap, which is huge for me in the grand scheme of Dragon Quest. We had some spin-offs here and there. For the greatest game that's ever been created, Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age. Now, a few of us here have played that, and you kind of understand why I love it so much.
It's the West Country accent.
It's definitely that. Takeshi Uchikawa, just absolute hit on all cylinders. It's the sweetest, most lovely, incredible love letter to a golden era of the 90s. And we all know that it is my favorite game of all time, still not been beaten yet. I've played it now 6 times on 5 different consoles. So,
as you do,
I fucking adore it, to the point where I was looking on eBay the other week to import the Japanese version on the 3DS version.
The 3DS version of it?
Yeah, it's all in 2D.
Oh, so is that the 2D version that they're stuck onto
Yes.
the S version?
Yes, but it's all in Japanese. So, no, not doing it. But I want it. I still want it. It's just like Akira Toriyama. People don't like his art style. I love it. If you don't know who he is, guys, and you've not been listening to this podcast, Dragon Ball. He's a Dragon Ball guy.
I was going to say the art is very Dragon Ball.
He is the Dragon Ball guy. He deliberately makes characters look simple and eye-catching and very similar. In his words, it's part laziness, but part familiarity. And you can just see it in everything he does. Every monster, every creature, every thing he does, you'll see it in some of his other work. The dragons look like dragons in Dragon Ball. Do you know what I mean? It's the character. Everyone looks like Goku in some form. It's Goku with a wig on. But I find it endearing. I really like it. Yuji Horii, that's the difference with this, is the writing in 11 in that gap. Obviously 9 had no real, it had writing, it had narrative to it, but bare bones narrative, and 10 being an MMO. God no, I can't imagine it being super narrative heavy. I'm not an MMO guy. I don't really understand them.
Some
I don't know how
MMOs are pretty
work.
narrative heavy.
Yeah, are there?
Like Final Fantasy 14 is very.
I've just started that today, and I don't know what's happening in the story.
That's a normal experience. 1 for a Final Fantasy game, 2 for an MMO.
I am completely lost, but
it's fine. It's fine. You'll get there.
Yeah. I'm getting there. It didn't cost me a penny, thank God. But yeah, 11 just did so much straight away. Again, we've got a voiceless hero, and me and Stig have chatted about this before. It's hilarious that he doesn't talk, but it's everyone else surrounding him. It's just incredible. You've met Sylvando, haven't you, Stig?
Yeah.
He's incredible, isn't he?
Yeah.
Gadget, you know who he is.
Yeah.
Kicked out one of the other members so I could have him in my party.
Yeah. It's one of the greatest game characters and modern take on sexuality, on being who you are and not giving a fuck and still being an absolute badass, but a fop. Do you know what I mean? It's so like, for a Japanese developer to be that broad and that open about things, I think it's fantastic. And it's just a lovely game. I don't know how to describe it. The weight, people say, oh, was it worth it? I think because there technically wasn't a wait, because in Japan they weren't waiting. They won't go that long without a Dragon Quest game. It's an event when they bring out a Dragon Quest game over there. They have to close schools and stuff like that up. I mean, it's their Disney. It's their big thing. And in my, there is a wait for me, so I don't know if you allow me to count this, Stig, but it's a wait for me. And it was absolutely worth it. It blew me away.
The merchandise as well over there is just insane.
They've got Dragon Quest cafes. They've got Dragon Quest channel. They've got a channel. They've got a fucking channel. It's just Dragon Quest stuff. I live in the wrong country. I was born in the wrong country. And like, it's just everything about it. It just, I don't know what it is. It's just perfect for my focus as well. It's good for, I don't care who's watching me play Dragon Quest, apart from the puff scenes. It's a bit awkward.
I love the puff scenes.
I bet you do.
My favourite bit. I look for them everywhere in that game.
Yeah, I
sometimes go back to the same one.
Yeah, mate. There's a plot. There's a little side quest for that, so don't worry. There's a puff side quest for the best puff in the world. And it said puss then. But yeah, I don't know what it does. It just makes me feel like I'm reading a beautiful fairy tale. When I constantly play this game. It's always in my rotation on whatever console I'm on, and I'll just play half an hour and something magical happens. I'm still discovering stuff 6 times in. It's just so special to me. It just blows my mind. But that wait, I think it was worth it, because obviously they learned from 9 and 10. Because by all accounts, 10's brilliant, even though it's an MMO and it's still active. I think it's still active. I think they've got, like, do you know, when fan servers, you know, when they keep a server going.
I don't think it's active anymore, because if it was only on the Wii, you can't go online with it anymore.
There's probably ways around it. You know what they're like. Maybe. You know what they're like. But I know it was. There's
a new one coming out now, isn't there? Didn't they announce it?
Mate, yeah. The thing is with this, it's going to be cool and I'm going to enjoy it, but it seems to be not fun and fantastical. It seems to be
dark, isn't there?
Dark tone, and I'm like, oh no, what's happening? Like when Ghibli goes too dark, and you think, oh no, Ghibli, don't do it.
I do need to get back and play that at some point. I have literally not played it since before.
It's always going to be there for you. Games. You boot it up and it's going to tell you exactly what you've done.
That's right.
Yeah, it does. That's one thing I actually love about it. Actually, when you clear out of it, you come back and it tells you exactly
this is what you did last time.
This is the last thing you did.
Yeah. Like, oh. And the game's got so many quality of lives. If you can't remember what you were speccing your characters towards, just change it. Start again with them. You know what I mean? There's no barrier to entry at all in this game. It's just the perfect Japanese role-playing game. And if you don't like Japanese role-playing games, I still think you should give it a go.
Well, I find it.
Yeah. And you were going to surprise me with that one, weren't you? Now, oh, so good.
You put 26 hours into it, so it must have been doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's so special to me in that way. And I'm willing to let there be a big wait between 11 and 12. but I am very nervous about this. I think in that that little concept trailer that we had, there was blood in it, and I'm like, what?
Wait, when's it supposed to be out?
When it's ready.
Yeah, I don't think there's a date. I don't think there's a date.
I reckon it'll be.
Most people are assuming next year.
It'll be out in Japan for a year before we get it anyway. It always is.
So it's localized.
Yeah, because when it gets localized, those games get localized good. All the accents.
And then they phone up Candy and say, "Can you do your accents for us?"
And I'll be like, yes, Baba, I will.
You're in it anyway, Candy. You're Gemma from the beginning of 11.
Right at the beginning of the game, yeah.
Now I have to play it.
Fight, and fight some more.
Yeah.
Hey, she said that so many times. I was like, shut the fuck up.
If you play that game in 2D mode, you can't hear her.
I have to do that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's all of us then, isn't it?
That's us all.
What about the listeners then, Gadget?
Good man.
Well, a few of them have got in contact with us. We'll start with Xenos. He said, for one that didn't work so well, the Golden Sun series is one of my favorite JRPG franchises.
Yeah,
the first two games released on the GBA, the third on the DS, and with an 8-year gap, 2002 to 2010, between 2 and 3.
Yep.
The graphics on the first two were impressive for the system and feels like they genuinely pushed the limits of the Game Boy Advance's sound capability. They're solid RPGs, but the third one felt a lot shorter than the first two, which were originally intended to be one game, but it was literally too big to fit on one Game Boy Advance cartridge and had to be split in half.
It follows directly afterwards.
And critically, the third one ended on a cliffhanger, which is still unresolved 12 years later in the present day.
Bastards.
At least the main characters still get cameos in Smash Brothers franchise as spirits or assist trophies, but I want the fourth game that they set up. As for one that did, it's hard to beat the gap between 1986 and 2012, that is Kid Icarus on the Nintendo Entertainment System to Kid Icarus Uprising on the 3DS.
Yeah.
The original being a notoriously tough-as-nails platformer, and the sequel being an outstanding third-person shooter/action game with a solid plot, great character writing, tons of comedy thrown in amongst the drama, and some absolutely fantastic music.
Yeah.
I really like these games, and I've got a lot to say about Golden Sun in particular. The second game was one of the first GBA games I ever owned.
Oh, so fucking Golden Sun's so good. That's another one. Like, if you're not that into JRPGs, this one could push that barrier. I think it's just brilliant. It's beautiful. I don't know how they managed to get that game looking like it did. It's stylized in a beautiful, beautiful way. So good.
Wasn't that the one that you could rely on the light? Actually,
No, that's Boktai.
Huh?
That's Boktai. I'm sure that's Boktai.
Is that what it was? I
Yeah.
thought Golden
Is
Sun
that a
had
vegetable?
something similar to that.
No, there's a Kojima one that he did something with. Hideo Kojima did an RPG with the sun, and it wasn't very good. I think it's called Boktai. You have to Google that. I can't Google that while I'm talking. God.
Fair
Not a
enough.
chance.
Lee Davies has gone in for a deep, deep, deep cut here. The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings books are probably the most successful return to the world for me.
Yes.
The gap
It
between
is.
them was 17 years, and Lord of the Rings is just so good. And it massively fleshes out the lore and the general locations of Middle-earth. I read them all back to back, but imagine that if I'd read The Hobbit as a kid at the time, coming back as an adult to see what Bilbo and Gandalf were up to would have been incredibly moving. I love those guys so much.
That's what Tolkien said in that interview, that famous one they did on the BBC. He's like, yes, The Hobbit is a kid's film, but then the kids grew up by the time I wrote the next three.
Yeah.
So he was like the first one that's thought about that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, because he wrote them for his kids.
Yeah, what a boy. What a boy.
Angry Curtis said, my choice this week would be the return of Doom in 2016 after a long hiatus from Doom 3, which seemed to have split opinion as to whether it was a good entry or not. I maintain Doom 3 is a good game, but a bad Doom game.
Yes.
I like Doom 3 a lot.
Good survival
Doom-
horror game.
Scary.
Yeah, Doom 3 is great, but it's a very bad Doom game.
I played the original version when you had to have the torch as a gun.
That was a choice. So you're on a Martian mining facility. Does nobody have any gaffer tape?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Just hold
redid
it
that, didn't they, though, on the new version?
Like that.
Yeah.
Jack Bauer holds it, holds a torch there and rests
Yeah.
the gun on his
Everyone
like
should
that.
look to Jack Bauer. I always said this. I've always
Exactly.
said
Look
this.
to Jack Bauer and how
You
to
got
hold a
tattooed on
torch
you.
and a gun at the same time.
I've got it tattooed on my back, yeah. Jack was there.
Yeah. Says either way, Doom 2016 wasn't really on my radar, and still wasn't really until the reviews came out. And it wasn't until the positive word of mouth went around that I decided to give it a shot, and my word was it good. Even now, it plays like no other FPS game and was a great reinvention of the series whilst also maintaining its core DNA. The wait for it was definitely worthwhile, and I can't wait until the next one. Rumours the past couple of days it might be unveiled at the Xbox showcase in June.
I really liked the Doom 2016. I don't like the one after it.
Yeah, I didn't get on with Eternal. It's one that we've gone over it several times. It's others too. It's more that I didn't like the kind of push to be a bit more arcadey, but I appreciate why a lot of people like it. It just didn't work for me.
I love the 2016.
2016. Oh, fuck, it's so good.
It's the music.
Yeah, BFG Division.
Frantic, like, kind of rooms where you're having to just bounce around and like.
I like my Doom on Mars, guys.
And you jumps perfectly so you can get the kill and make sure you don't die, and then your health's like low, and you're like fuck, like running around.
I'll tell you what I did like on the second one is the fact that he's in a big castle above Earth. I fucking love that. That's so fucking cool.
You kind of Martian Manhunter vibes.
Yeah, where is it? He's in his castle. It's fucking cool. That's cool.
I do appreciate that with it. I do appreciate that with Eternal, that they just kind of threw out the idea of being any sense of realism. He's got a castle in the fucking sky.
I didn't get that far, so I might play that game. I might just fucking do it.
Last up, we have Ray, and he said, sequels return after a long time seldom work, but there are some that defy the rule. Blade Runner 2049 is one of the rare cases.
Yeah,
although the original creation crew was largely absent from the new installment, the new team showed a deep appreciation and understanding of the source material. Yes, the visuals were prettier but fit the style, the atmosphere was right, and the most important part is it provided an answer to a 30-year-old question, and it did it in a brilliant way. Couldn't ask for a better sequel than that. Unfortunately, though, most of the long-time sequels can't even grasp what makes the original successful. The most egregious offender I can think of is the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
The controversy around them cannot be covered in one reply, but the dramatic change from the one-to-one A New Hope copy that was The Force Awakens to the Let the Past Die, Last Jedi, the creative team didn't seem to have made up their mind on whether they wanted to do an HD remaster or start a revolution. A sad way to waste the reunion of old actors and the film crew. The man's got a point.
Force Awakens, man. Just go from that to how it ended up. Just what
I really, at the time when it came out, I really liked The Force Awakens. I do like it now, even though it is just essentially a retread of.
Yeah, it's got issues, but it's still enjoyable.
But it definitely, after the prequels, the feeling of watching that film and the way it looked and sounded and everything, the tone of it, that was like, right, feels like Star Wars, feels like the original trilogy, that one. Yeah. And then just. They messed it up so bad. Just not having a.
Who directed that one? Force Awakens?
J.J. Abrams.
It was.
Just the
guys. Star Wars isn't good.
Why would you take the biggest franchise of all time, and not plan it out? Well, just go,
you can see it though. You can see it not planned.
What fucking? Why would you not do that?
I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking.
And they've just sat.
Is it Gareth Edwards that did the second one?
No, really.
No, it was Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Him who did Looper. Is it Looper?
And Knives Out. But it just boggles my mind that they just didn't have a plan, and just went on a whim and just whatever the fuck, whoever you do what you want to do, you do what you do. Even if it makes
fucking
no sense.
Third one though, fucking Palpatine has somehow been resurrected. However he says. Get a grip.
It's all about they're flying out. Fuck off.
Oh,
the bait and switch with Chewie and that, and it's just like the MacGuffin. Oh, that dagger just happens to be exactly the same shape as a fallen Star Destroyer.
I hate it. I actively hate it.
Kissing each other. Fucking awful.
Kiss the mass murderer. Go on, give him a kiss.
I'd like to be at the board meeting for Phantom Menace as well.
Some bad guys don't need to be redeemed. He could have just been an evil bastard.
Yeah,
I like Darth Vader's redemption, where his only redemption is on his son. Nobody else. Nothing else. That's his only redemption. Not even redemption with his daughter. Just his son, and that's it. It's
the Phantom Menace, when they go, let's talk about the trade embargo. Everyone wants to see that.
Actually, to be fair,
it makes sense, but they just spent too long around it.
Well, no, but the whole point is, and I will. The Phantom Menace has a lot of problems, but I will defend this on it.
Defend the Phantom Menace now.
Well,
am I hearing this correctly?
It's more defending the concept because people going about, it's about a trade dispute. It's like, how do you think wars start?
Oh,
it's the beginning of a saga of war in space. It's like they have to have a reason, and it's the idea that it starts off as this ridiculous little trade dispute between a planet and another planet.
Of one man, though, isn't it?
And it's supposed to be how that thread gets spun out into Palpatine's plan over the 3 films. But the problem is everyone focuses on, it's just about a trade dispute. It's like, the war hadn't started yet.
It's about the Gungans. Don't you see it? They're the Sith all along.
As terrible as the execution is, at least he had a plan. It's like, this is the story I want to tell. You could have made that story work really well.
Yeah.
It just... His fascination
it's
with
cohesive. It definitely
green
is.
screen and shit characters and stuff. And I think, didn't he write the scripts? And he's notoriously bad at writing.
Yes.
So that doesn't help. So,
Star Wars is not good anymore. It's mediocre.
I actually like it a lot more. Like I still like. We put it on Discord. There's more things I like than I don't dislike.
I know.
Than I dislike in Star Wars.
It's wild. Any more?
No, that's it.
Excellent. So, as always, if you want to join us on Patreon, you can. Or why don't you just go onto our website, modernescapism.co.uk. Or is it .com? I can't remember.
.co.uk.
Because my iPad has run out of battery. So, .co.uk. And you can see the links to all our other stuff, and you can click on those links, and you can just give us 5 stars, likes, all that nonsense. Next week, we are going to do games that we couldn't beat when we were younger.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, you weren't here when we decided that week.
No, I forgot about that. I was off preparing. I had no idea that was coming up.
Yeah. Games we couldn't. I don't necessarily mean complete or beat or hard. Some concepts might have been too much for you when you're younger, and you've come back to it and you've thought, So that's what we're doing next week. We happy with that, Gadget? Just hearing that first time now?
Yeah, no. I already have some ideas.
Yeah,
Sticks said that straight away.
Instantly,
I've got ideas.
Pop into my head. And I was just like, fuck that game.
Sonic Game Gear.
Candy said Sonic as well.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So yes, listeners, get those things in. You remember when you were kids. Make us feel old as well if you're not that old. Like, I couldn't beat Grand Theft Auto San Andreas when I was 6. Make me feel old. Do you know what I mean? If you want to do that, you can. So
that was my choice.
You weren't 6 then. You were fucking 46. So, patrons, meet in the green room. We've got a new segment in there for you as well. Oh, it's going to be lovely. But for everyone else, thank you for listening. We will see you next time. Good night. Bye.
Bye.